living in an apartment at the time, and he shows up. I open the door, and there's this bad Zero Mostel comb over.
I could win the Nobel Prize, and it would say, Meathead wins Nobel.
Out of the relationship between father and daughter. And we chose you because just like Carol O'Connor, you have blue eyes and a fat face. I said, okay, thanks.
It wasn't the statement anyone expected at all. When news first started circulating about serious concerns surrounding Rob Reiner, the entire industry braced for the usual clean, polished press response. You know the routine. Carefully chosen words, safe phrasing, and that distant tone about privacy and respect. That's what everyone thought was coming. But what actually happened next caught people completely off guard. Because what Sally Struthers shared wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't filtered, and it definitely wasn't public relations. It was raw emotion spilling out in real time. The kind that makes you pause the video because it feels way too personal to even witness. This wasn't a former coworker talking for attention. This was someone who spent formative years alongside Rob, growing up together on the set of All in the Family. That bond didn't disappear when the cameras shut off, and it clearly never faded. Sally wasn't just reminiscing, she was exposing emotional weight that had been building for months. And what she hinted at quietly flipped the narrative people thought they understood. Her words lined up with whispers that had already been circulating privately among insiders, including concerns that had reportedly reached people close to Tom Cruise within the last couple of days. This wasn't framed as proof or accusation. It came across as deep worry about something unhealthy that may have been happening behind closed doors. And here's the part that shook people the most. Sally admitted she stayed silent for a long time, not because she didn't care, but because she was trying to protect Rob's dignity. She made it clear that silence wasn't easy. According to her, the decision to finally speak came from fear that keeping quiet would do more harm than good.
When All in the Family went on the air after we had 8 in the can, and it started in the next few weeks to climb to #1, we were all feeling our oats, and I went on a coffee break on the set on a camera blocking day to Norman Lear, who was standing over on the side, and I said, Norman, remember when I auditioned for this and it was down to the last 4 and one of them was Penny Marshall and we had to go in and do improvisations with Rob, and he says, yeah, what are you getting at? I said, well, I really thought that Penny would get it because Rob was part of each audition and he was living with her and soon to marry her, and he would obviously do better with her wanting her to get the job. I mean, was I really the funniest one in the room when we were doing the improvs for all the suits? And he says, well, no.
She specifically mentioned worries involving Rob's son, Nick Reiner, and made it clear these were concerns, not legal claims. When she spoke, her voice wasn't just sad, it was tight with frustration and emotion. This wasn't grief for a public image, it was anger at a situation that felt out of control. Then she dropped the line that made the room go silent. And yes, this is her exact quote. We all saw the bruises on his soul, but we were too afraid to ask about the bruises on his arms. That sentence hit hard because it wasn't literal, it was emotional. She was describing visible distress, not physical proof. Sally then talked about a lunch they shared just weeks earlier. She emphasized this moment because it was the last time she saw Rob in person. And what she described didn't sound like the outspoken, fiery director people recognize. She said he seemed smaller, withdrawn, and constantly on edge. According to her, he kept checking his phone over and over, reacting every time it buzzed like he was bracing for bad news. When she asked him if something was wrong, she said his response haunted her. He looked exhausted, drained, and completely overwhelmed. And this is another direct quote that stayed unchanged. I don't know how to stop him, Sal. I love him, but I'm terrified of him. At the time, Sally thought he was talking about industry pressure, politics, or someone powerful pulling strings. She didn't assume anything darker. Not until later, conversations started connecting dots she couldn't ignore. She made it clear she wasn't accusing anyone of crimes. What she described was fear, emotional fear, the kind that eats at someone slowly.
With direct knowledge tell us, a month before the murders, doctors changed the meds Nick was taking for schizoaffective disorder.
We're told Rob and Michelle Reiner were well aware that they had changed Nick's meds. They were alarmed at what they were seeing. There were changes in his behavior. They just didn't know what to do.
We've been trying for a week to find out why doctors changed Nick's meds a month before the murders. No one would tell us. All they would say is, you're gonna be shocked when you find out.
She said hindsight changed how she understood that lunch, especially after hearing similar concerns echoed by other people who cared about Rob's well-being. And that's where Tom Cruise's name entered the conversation, not as an accuser, not as a whistleblower, but as someone who knew Rob closely for decades. Their bond from A Few Good Men wasn't just professional, it was personal. Cruise has a reputation for noticing shifts in people, and insiders say he had quietly expressed concern long before anything became public. Nothing here has been confirmed, and no official accusations have been filed. But the emotional puzzle pieces Sally shared painted a picture of a man under intense stress, struggling with fear inside his own family dynamics. And that's what's making people uncomfortable. Not scandal for clicks, but the possibility that warning signs were missed. This isn't a headline-ready story with clean answers. It's messy, emotional, and unsettling, and that's exactly why it's making people stop and actually listen. According to multiple sources who say they were extremely close to what was unfolding behind the scenes, and who only spoke on the condition of anonymity, Tom Cruise didn't just hear rumors from a distance. He allegedly saw something firsthand that shook him enough to act immediately. These sources claim that back in November, Tom staged what could only be described as a quiet intervention, one that was never meant to go public. The story goes that Tom visited the Reiner home under the normal excuse of discussing a possible future project. Nothing unusual on the surface, but what he reportedly walked into was anything but normal. According to those accounts, the meeting quickly spiraled into a tense confrontation, and not with Rob. Sources allege the tension centered on Nick. The situation described was heated, chaotic, and emotionally charged. Nick was reportedly yelling at Michelle, demanding access to a trust fund that had been restricted because of ongoing struggles tied to substance recovery. There's no claim of physical violence here, but the emotional intensity alone was enough to rattle everyone present. What's being alleged next is what stunned people the most. Tom Cruise, a man known for calm control and discipline, allegedly stepped between Nick and Michelle to de-escalate the situation, not as a hero moment, but as someone instinctively trying to lower the temperature. That alone says how serious the moment felt to those in the room. Later, according to leaked conversations shared privately, Tom allegedly told a close associate that Nick's demeanor scared him. He described a stare that felt empty, unpredictable, and deeply unsettling. Again, these are secondhand accounts, not diagnoses or accusations, but emotional reactions to what he believed he witnessed. What followed, if true, might be the most chilling part of this entire story. Sources say Tom pulled Rob aside that same day and spoke to him directly, without softening the message. He allegedly told him, "You are not safe in this house. You need to get him out, or you need to get out."
I was a real, nutcase. I was crazy. And I just, it was more than drugs. It's really always about more than that. And I needed a lot of that sort of discipline. It's life. Life goes on. Life happens. Things flare up. Yeah. I don't know.
That sentence alone reportedly haunted Rob long after Tom left. Think about that for a second. One of the most powerful, experienced figures in Hollywood, someone who's seen every kind of chaos imaginable, felt disturbed enough to warn a longtime friend to leave his own home, Not because of gossip, not because of image, but because of fear. And this is where the heartbreak deepens. According to multiple people close to Rob, his response was painfully familiar to anyone who's watched a parent struggle with boundaries. Rob didn't lash out. He didn't deny the tension. He defended his child. Sources say Rob told Tom something along the lines of, "He's sick. We can't abandon him. He just needs one more chance." That wasn't weakness. It was love. But love mixed with denial can be dangerous. Sally Struthers unknowingly confirmed this exact dynamic when she spoke publicly. She became emotional, admitting that Rob's endless forgiveness may have worked against him. She didn't blame anyone. She blamed herself. She said she wished she had pushed harder, spoken louder, and refused to accept the excuses. She shared that Rob had slowly started pulling away from everyone who knew him best. Plans were canceled. Calls went unanswered. Even longtime friends from all in the family noticed the distance growing. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet isolation.
Please welcome Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers.
You know, Sally and I were part of a unique television family.
Oh!
Yes.
Wow!
Yeah.
A small group of remaining cast members reportedly tried to organize a reunion dinner recently. Something light, something familiar. Rob declined without explanation. Sally said that hurt more than she expected. Then she shared a moment that stuck with people. She said she drove by the house about a week ago, not to intrude, just to check. It was the middle of the day, yet every blind was closed. The house didn't feel lived in. It felt sealed off. She said it looked less like a home and more like a fortress, heavy, silent, and closed to the outside world. She texted Rob, telling him she was nearby. Hours passed before he replied. His message was short and heavy. Not a good time. He's home. That was it. No explanation. No follow-up. Those words now echo differently for everyone who heard them. Not as drama, but as a warning that something inside that house felt wrong for a long time. He's home. Just 2 words, but they carry a crushing amount of weight. After everything Sally Struthers shared, those words now sound less like a casual update and more like a warning. And what truly stunned people wasn't just the fear, it was the financial desperation underneath it all. We always assume families at that level never run out of money, that wealth makes problems disappear. But Sally shattered that illusion. She revealed that Rob's finances were quietly unraveling, not because of failed projects or bad investments, but because he was trying to keep a situation from exploding. According to Sally, Rob had been selling off assets behind the scenes. Not to fund passion projects, not to enjoy retirement, but to cover debts connected to Nick's spiraling issues. She didn't present documents or numbers. She shared concern. She described Rob as frantic, exhausted, and constantly trying to put out fires no one else could see. She hinted that the pressure wasn't just emotional, it felt threatening. Not in a cinematic way, but in that heavy, real-world stress that keeps someone awake at night. Rob believed he was protecting his family by paying problems away, trying to keep chaos from knocking at the door. What breaks your heart is that he didn't realize the danger might already be inside his own walls.
People wonder why I'm still at 77 years old doing so much theater, and it's because, because I'm asked to. I really don't even have to audition. I get offered roles all over the country in different musicals and plays, and they say, well, you know, why is your friend Brenda Vaccaro sitting at home not working? She's a brilliant actress. And I said, because I was lucky enough to be on a groundbreaking national television series. Yeah. And people in North America learned my name. Right. And got used to my face and my voice. And now they're curious. You know, at 77, they're going to come see something, maybe because they love you or like you, but just as much because, wait a minute, is she still alive? Oh, and let's go see what she looks like now. I mean, there's
but then
that
you knock
factor.
their socks off.
Then you knock their socks off.
Then, Sally brought up an incident that still unsettles her to this day. She was careful with her words. She didn't accuse anyone, but the implication hit hard. About 6 months earlier, during a family gathering, Rob reportedly suffered a serious fall down the stairs. The explanation at the time was simple: an accident, a slip. Rob ended up with a broken wrist and visible bruising on his face. The story was accepted, and no one pushed back. But Sally said when she visited him in the hospital, something didn't sit right with her. She said the bruising didn't match what she'd expect from a fall. She described it as unsettling, not proof, but a feeling she couldn't shake. She admitted that in a moment of emotional honesty, she asked Rob a direct question, not accusing, not shouting, just asking. She said he didn't answer. He looked away. And then he cried. No confirmation, no denial, just silence. That silence, Sally explained, was louder than any words, especially when it involves parents and their children. She talked about the shame that can trap people in those situations. How do you tell anyone that the child you raised might be the source of your fear? How do you even admit it to yourself? Tom Cruise's perspective reportedly adds another layer of heartbreak. According to sources close to him, Tom had tried to intervene in a different way. He allegedly offered to cover the cost of an intensive, high-security rehabilitation program for Nick, one of those facilities designed for extreme cases, far away from Hollywood and distractions. Sources say Tom told Rob something like, "Let me take the burden off you." But Nick reportedly refused to go, and Rob, according to those close to him, couldn't bring himself to force the issue. Love, guilt, hope, all tangled together. Later, Tom allegedly confided to friends that watching the situation unfold felt like witnessing something tragic in slow motion, that he could see where things were heading, but couldn't stop it. Those words alone speak volumes about how helpless the people around Rob felt. Now, even in the early stages of public discussion, narratives are already forming. Mental health, emotional breaks, confusion, and yes, those conversations matter. But Sally Struthers made it clear she doesn't believe the situation was random or sudden. She spoke firmly about manipulation, about patterns, about moments when Nick could appear calm, apologetic, and present just long enough to regain trust, just long enough to get access. Then, according to her, the tension would return. She described it as psychological exhaustion, a cycle that drained Rob and Michelle piece by piece. Not chaos every day, but constant emotional warfare. Living in a state of anticipation, never knowing what version of the situation would walk through the door. And finally, Sally addressed the question everyone keeps asking. Why is it only her speaking? Why now? Her answer was blunt. Hollywood protects its own until silence becomes impossible. People didn't want to acknowledge that someone as respected and loved as Rob Reiner could be living in fear. It shattered the image. And images are everything in this town. But silence doesn't erase reality. It only delays it. It shatters the image completely. And at this point, Sally Struthers doesn't seem to care who that makes uncomfortable. She's 77 years old. She's lost her brother. And she's done protecting reputations that never protected the people she loved. Sally made it clear, she's not playing industry politics anymore. She said she wants accountability. She openly called out what she described as a long line of enablers around Nick, friends who looked the other way, people who kept showing up when they shouldn't have, professionals who, in her opinion, failed to intervene when warning signs were flashing. She didn't claim crimes, she claimed negligence, a system that kept giving chances without consequences. She talked about how a last name can quietly soften outcomes, how warnings replace action, how problems get delayed instead of stopped. Then Sally shifted the focus to someone who had been quietly carrying the weight for years, Michelle Singer Reiner. Up until now, most of the attention had been on Rob. But Sally said Michelle was the real buffer in that house, the mediator, the peacekeeper, the one constantly stepping in to calm situations before they boiled over. One of the most chilling things Sally shared was deeply personal. She said Michelle once admitted to her that she started sleeping with her bedroom door locked. Let that sink in. Locking your door inside your own home, not from strangers, but from fear you can't even name out loud. Michelle reportedly told Sally, "I wake up to the sound of footsteps in the hall and my heart stops." That sentence alone says everything. This wasn't chaos once in a while. This was constant anxiety. A house where silence was never peaceful. Sally described Rob and Michelle as prisoners in their own home, not trapped by walls, but by love, fear, and denial. They had poured everything into trying to hold things together. And by the final days, there was nothing left to give. Based on what Sally says detectives later shared with her, the final incident wasn't sudden. It wasn't one explosive moment. It unfolded slowly, like a siege.
I could win the Nobel Prize and would say, Meathead wins Nobel. We went to a royal premiere of When Harry Met Sally in London, and we were walking up this red carpet to meet Princess Diana, and I got meatheaded a couple of times with a British accent. Hey, meathead, how's it going, meathead? You know, it's a Cockney accent. They meatheaded me.
And Rob Reiner hates being meatheaded. It may have been one of the most memorable roles in television history, the kind that most actors would kill for, but the name doesn't have much to do with who he is today.
It's like Dopey to me now. It's like Dopey. I mean, it's so far away from who I am that I find it odd. It's just odd. I mean, and yet I understand.
Over multiple days, tension reportedly escalated instead of easing. Neighbors allegedly reported hearing raised voices on and off for nearly 2 days. Nothing specific enough to call emergency services, just enough noise to feel uneasy. And here's the uncomfortable truth Sally pointed out. In places like Brentwood, people don't rush to call the police on famous neighbors. They turn up the TV. They mind their business. They assume someone else will handle it. That social hesitation, that fear of causing a scene, may have allowed the situation to keep escalating unchecked. According to information Sally says she was told later, Rob made a phone call that night, but not to emergency services. He reportedly contacted a private security company instead. A request for help, not punishment. The call was logged in the evening and a response team was dispatched. But the timing mattered, and the delay mattered. By the time help arrived, the situation had already crossed a line no one could come back from. Sources say Tom Cruise was furious when he learned about the response time. He reportedly questioned why urgency wasn't recognized immediately. But people close to Rob believe he likely minimized the danger during that call. He didn't say, "We're in immediate danger." He likely said something closer to, "My son is having an episode." Because even then, even at the worst moment, Rob didn't want Nick treated like a criminal. He didn't want handcuffs. He didn't want police. He just wanted the situation calmed down. There is something deeply human and devastating about that instinct. The need to protect your child, even when protecting yourself, should come first. Sally said Rob never stopped being a father. Not for 1 second. She said Rob didn't fight back. Not because he couldn't, but because he wouldn't. According to what Sally was told, Michelle tried to shield herself, but Rob focused on de-escalation until the very end. The image of that, a man known for standing up loudly for justice, choosing love over self-defense, is something that stays with you. It forces people to confront uncomfortable questions about family, fear, and silence. And now, as Nick sits in custody and legal teams prepare their narratives, a storm is forming. Mental health will be discussed. Responsibility will be debated. Systems will be questioned. But Sally made one thing painfully clear. This wasn't just a breakdown. It was a buildup. And too many people saw the warning signs and looked away. The next battle isn't just going to be fought in a courtroom, it's going to be fought over the estate, and the story people are allowed to believe. And Sally Struthers knows exactly what's coming next. Yesterday, she made a public plea that felt urgent and deeply personal. She didn't speak to lawyers or insiders. She spoke directly to the public, to people watching this unfold in real time. She begged everyone not to let Nick's defense team rewrite history. Sally said she's terrified that Rob and Michelle will be painted as villains, that narratives will suddenly appear claiming they were controlling, manipulative, or emotionally harmful. She warned that this strategy shows up again and again in high-profile family cases, where responsibility gets blurred and the people who can no longer speak are put on trial instead. She was blunt. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She said Rob's biggest flaw wasn't cruelty, it was softness. He was too forgiving, too patient, too hopeful. And in her words, that was the only thing he ever did wrong. Behind the scenes, sources say Tom Cruise is preparing himself for the possibility of testifying if the case moves forward. Let that sink in. One of the most famous people on the planet, potentially taking the stand, not against an enemy, but against the child of someone he loved. People close to Tom say he's not doing this out of anger. He's doing it because he believes the truth needs to be locked into the record. He wants the timeline made clear. He wants the earlier warnings acknowledged. And he wants it known that help was offered and refused. According to those same sources, Tom believes intent matters, that there were moments of clarity, moments where choices were made, and he doesn't want those moments erased by vague explanations or emotional deflection.
I want to ask you, obviously, you're an incredible filmmaker. Rob Reiner, the director, just passed away. I want to know how his work impacted.
Man, I condolences to his family. I mean, his work impacted me incredibly, man. You know, I remember being young and my parents watching when Harry met Sally. You know, and just like laughing their ass off at the scenes. And that was like my first real. That was like my first real interaction with like an adult rom-com. You know, that movie holds a special place in my heart. But he's done so many incredible ones. And he was always somebody who I would think about, because I've had an opportunity to work in different genres, you know. And he was so able to adapt to whatever the story was. You know, you look at something like this is Spinal Tap, you know, versus something like Stand By Me.
That brings us to the most uncomfortable part of this entire story, the part people avoid saying out loud. Sally said this didn't start overnight. She reminded everyone that we all watched Nick grow up in public, red carpets, smiling photos, headlines that screamed, "Lucky kid." But Sally claims there were warning signs long before adulthood. She said that even as a teenager, Nick made people uneasy. Not loud trouble, quiet trouble, the kind that sits behind the eyes. She told a story from years ago at a rap party that still sticks with her. According to Sally, Nick was found alone in a back room, calmly destroying property, not raging, not crying, just methodically breaking things one by one. When Rob confronted him, Sally said Nick didn't panic or apologize. He smiled. That smile, she said, chilled her. She claims she pulled Rob aside that night and told him to get serious help immediately. And to be fair, they did. Sally acknowledged that. She said Rob and Michelle spared no expense. Doctors, specialists, treatment programs, everything money could provide. But she added something that hit hard. You can't fix everything with resources. You can't buy empathy. You can't write a check that guarantees emotional accountability. Since Sally's interview aired, the industry reaction has been immediate and telling. People who once posed proudly beside Nick are quietly scrubbing photos. Social media connections are disappearing. Invitations are being rewritten. The distancing has begun, but Sally isn't backing away. She's standing firm, pointing straight at what she believes people ignored. She said she has nothing left to protect. No career politics, no favors to trade. Just the truth as she experienced it. She wants the world to understand that Rob Reiner wasn't just a famous man who died under tragic circumstances. He was someone living under emotional strain inside his own home. And that kind of situation doesn't always fit the stereotypes we expect. We struggle to imagine powerful men as vulnerable. We assume money equals control. That he could have hired security. That he could have forced distance. But Sally said love freezes people. Love delays action. Love makes you believe tomorrow will be different. As for the funeral, sources say it will be intensely private, No spectacle, no public statements. Tom Cruise is reportedly assisting with arrangements behind the scenes, focused on privacy and security. Not to create drama, but to keep it away. Because even now, Sally believes Rob deserves peace. And she's determined that his story won't be rewritten by people who weren't there. Sally Struthers will be speaking again. And this time, she says it will be her last public act for Rob. She revealed that she has a letter prepared, one final letter meant only for him. She hasn't shared what's written inside, but she did say it's the conversation they never finished at that lunch 3 weeks before everything unraveled. And that alone says everything. Because there's a lesson buried in all of this that's painful to accept, a lesson most of us don't want to hear. It's about the limits of love. We're raised on movies, many of them directed by Rob himself, that teach us love fixes everything. That if you just stay patient enough, forgiving enough, loyal enough, the story eventually works out. That love conquers all. But real life doesn't follow a script. Real life isn't the Princess Bride. Sometimes love isn't enough to save someone who refuses help. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, that person pulls everyone around them down too. Sally broke the unspoken code of silence when she spoke out. And by doing that, she shattered the illusion of the perfect Hollywood family. Not for attention, not for headlines, but to give Rob something he never had at the end: honesty. She said Rob didn't die as a legend in those final moments. He wasn't a powerful director or a public figure. He was just a father, scared, exhausted, and heartbroken. And in saying that, she gave him his humanity back.
Do it for me, huh? Just for me. Put the wig on, huh? It makes you look so different.
Different. Makes me look so different. Michael, I may be slow, but it's finally getting through to me. I only appeal to you when I have this dumb wig on.
As we wait for the legal process to unfold, as court filings begin to surface and official timelines are examined, one thing keeps echoing: the warnings. Tom Cruise tried to warn him. Sally saw the warning signs. Friends noticed the isolation. The tension didn't appear overnight. It built slowly, day after day. There were so many moments where the path could have changed. So many off-ramps that were missed. At any point, outside help could have been brought in. At any point, stronger boundaries could have been enforced. But love complicates action. And now all that's left is silence. The silence of a house that once echoed with laughter. The silence of a man who still had stories left to tell. And the steady, aching voice of Sally Struthers reminding the world that it didn't have to end this way. This story is still developing. We're watching closely as new court documents are expected soon. There are unconfirmed reports about potential digital evidence, smart home data, recordings, logs, but nothing official has been introduced yet. We'll separate fact from speculation and keep you informed every step of the way. For now, take this story with you, not as entertainment, but as a reminder. Look at the people around you a little closer. Check on the friend who's been withdrawing. Listen when someone's behavior changes, because sometimes the brightest smiles hide the heaviest weight. Rest in peace, Rob. You deserved compassion, safety, and peace, not fear and silence. And if you made it this far, make sure you like this video, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. We'll be covering every update as this case unfolds. Also, don't click away just yet. There's another video popping up on your screen right now with even more celebrity drama, hidden truths, and stories the mainstream won't dig into. Tap that next video, and I'll see you there.